The most expensive piece of technology ever built cost the United States $150 billion and took 10 years to build. 10 years after the ideas and original designs of a space shuttle that would lead to technological and scientific advancements became reality. It was called the International Space Station. It was launched on November 20th in 1998 and paved the way for the future of space exploration. The International Space Station entered space on November 20th, 1998.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, coming up on main engine start. Main engine start, 6 engines up and running. And liftoff. Liftoff of the Proton rocket and the Zarya control module. The International Space Station is underway.
Months after the ISS entered space, with little research reported, many Americans began to worry. People started criticizing it and labeling it as a costly mistake. Though many critics would claim it as a costly mistake, NASA's involvement in the creation and launch of the International Space Station at the end of the 20th century would result in many scientific discoveries and demonstrate the importance of international cooperation. The history of the initial space discoveries and inventions can be traced back to the early 1940s. When the space age began in the 1950s, the first design was called spaceplanes. In 1957, the Soviet Union launched the first ever Earth-orbiting satellite called Sputnik into space. Funding directed by federal policies began, and education in schools began teaching children about space and distant planets. The same year, the U.S. launched its first satellite called the Explorer 1 in January of that year. In 1958, National Aeronautics and the Space Administration, also known as NASA, an American space program was launched. In May 5th of 1961, the first American was launched into space, and his name was Alan Shepard. Soon after, John Glenn became the first American to orbit the Earth and the third to ever do it, following Yuri A. Gagarin and German Stefan Titov. The successes of several different things led to further achievements and more opportunities in space exploration. The Apollo program was a result of prior successes and would continue these successes into making history and completing several other lunar missions. The Apollo program was designed to transport humans to and from the moon. A fire in January of 1967 killed 3 astronauts while training. However, this did not affect these astronauts' desire to reach the moon, because 2 years later, on July 20th, 1969, Neil Armstrong and Michael Collins entered orbit around the moon in a small space capsule. After detaching from the capsule, they entered a smaller capsule, which eventually landed on the moon, making them the first humans to ever stand on another planet other than Earth. With even more discoveries and making history throughout the world, NASA began to design and build the International Space Station. ISS was launched into space on November 20th, 1998. The ISS completes 16 orbits around the Earth every day and travels at 17,500 miles per hour. NASA, partnered with the United States, creating the International Space Station, has allowed for important scientific discoveries while cooperating with other nations. Its original intentions were to allow advancements in technology, medicine, and science. However, over time, its uses have been expanded into much more. Learning effects of micro and hypergravity has allowed researchers to better understand our bodies. ISS allowed for research in combustion and fluids. It monitors the Earth's ecosystems and natural disasters in real time. The ISS is used to experiment and test future spacecraft. Initially, the space research on board was for government purposes only, but now they have allowed for both commercial and academic uses. The International Space Station is wrapping up its time after more than 20 years. As NASA prepares for the decommissioning of the ISS, there is still a lot of uncertainty surrounding the future of space exploration. Although the space industry has always been ruled by nations, it may begin to be run by companies. By 2031, the International Space Station will likely be decommissioned, meaning that it will no longer be in service. In order to return the ISS to Earth, all 5 space agencies have to consent. Although the future is still very uncertain of space travel, Jeff Bezos has created a company called Blue Origin and eventually hopes to have millions of people working in space to get a better understanding of the Earth. Jeff Bezos plans to replace the ISS with a privately operated space station.